Hi friends. Today, I'm sharing Sarah's story, a woman who went through dark times of depression and loneliness but found the strength to fight and start over. This is a story about hope, pain, and support. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss important and inspiring stories. The coffee had gone cold in her hands again. It always did. Sarah didn't mind anymore. The ritual mattered more than the warmth. Every morning, she poured, sat in the same spot on the couch, stared at the closed blinds, and waited for something to change. Nothing ever did. Her phone lay on the armrest beside her, face down. She hadn't turned off notifications. There just weren't any. No calls. No texts. No junk emails. It had been 43 days since the last time anyone, had contacted her. And that was the bank. Outside, the town moved on like she didn't exist. Sarah's apartment was small, quiet, and dim. Dust had settled on the windowsills. The fridge made a clicking noise every 30 minutes, the only consistent sound in her world. She hadn't worked in almost a year. After her mother died, everything unraveled. One week she was taking PTO for the funeral. The next she was disengaged, according to her manager. Then she was laid off. No one from work reached out. The box sat on the kitchen counter. A plain cardboard Amazon box, retaped so many times the edges curled. Inside, 7 orange pill bottles. Some full. Some nearly empty. One bottle had her name spelled wrong. She never bothered to correct it. A tangle of prescriptions from 5 doctors in 2 years. She had written on the box in black marker, med/final. Not a suicide note. Not yet. But maybe a question. Maybe a way to measure the truth. Was there really nothing left? She didn't tell anyone how much she cried some mornings before her feet touched the floor. Or how loud the silence was at night, when the TV screen went black and the air hung heavy with memories of someone who would never return. Her mother used to call every Thursday. Her voice, warm and annoying and alive, had filled the silence. Now it was voicemail and ghosts. Sarah didn't go outside anymore. She ordered everything in. Groceries, shampoo, dog food, even though she no longer had a dog. She couldn't get rid of the habit. The bag still sat by the door, unopened for months. At 3:42 p.m., she heard it. A knock. Not the UPS guy. They always dropped and ran. This was a slow, tentative knock, like someone unsure if they should be here. She froze. She never had visitors. Not since the funeral. Another knock. 3 soft raps. A pause. Then one more. Her body tensed. Her heart thumped against her ribs. She stood slowly, barefoot, and crept toward the peephole. A young man. Maybe 16, maybe 18. Hoodie. Backpack. Thin. Nervous. He was holding something in his hands. A leash. And at the end of it, a dog. A familiar one. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. Her legs nearly gave out beneath her. She flung open the door. The dog's ears perked, tail wagging, and then, unmistakably, he lunged toward her with a joyful cry. "Benny," she whispered. "Is it, Benny?" He licked her face like she had never left. Like those 2 years apart had just been a bad dream. The boy stepped back, surprised. "He ran into my yard this morning. I scanned his chip. Said your name. You're Sarah." She nodded, stunned. "I thought he was gone forever," she said. "They told me someone probably stole him." The boy looked down. "I didn't know where else to bring him. I don't really have a phone. He seemed like he wanted to come here." Sarah didn't ask questions. She didn't need to. She knelt, arms around the dog, and cried, loud, gasping sobs that rattled her bones. For Benny. For her mother. For the years she lost. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't even know your name." "No problem," the boy said. "I just figured, maybe you needed him more than I do." He turned to leave. "Wait," she said. "Do you need anything? Food? Water?" The boy hesitated. "I'm okay. Just glad he found you." And he walked away. Inside, Sarah sat on the floor, Benny in her lap, tail thumping. She hadn't smiled in weeks. But something inside her, something deep, shifted. The box of meds still sat on the counter. But tonight, she didn't touch it. The next morning, Sarah awoke to the sound of soft breathing at the edge of her bed. Benny. He lay curled near her feet, as if he'd never left. Like 2 years hadn't passed. Like she hadn't wept night after night into her pillow, staring at the place where his bed used to be. She reached down and ran her fingers through his gray-speckled fur. He smelled like wet leaves and the dusty streets. Still, he felt like home. It was the first time in months she'd slept through the night. No restless turning. No late-night TV to drown the thoughts. She sat up slowly, listening to the creak of her body. Vinny lifted his head, alert, wagging his tail, ready to follow her wherever she went. She smiled. A real smile. Small, but real. In the kitchen, the box still sat on the counter. Med/final. 2 words that had felt so final yesterday. Today they looked smaller. Not meaningless. Just not everything. Sarah made coffee. She hadn't opened the front door in weeks. Even when deliveries came, she waited until the driver was gone, then reached through the crack and pulled the packages in. The outside world felt too big, too unpredictable. But Benny needed to go out. She stared at the door like it might bite her. "Okay, Benny," she whispered. "We'll just try. Just the porch." She clipped the old leash onto his collar, her hands shaking slightly. She reached for the knob. Her heart thudded in her ears. She tried to breathe slowly. "It's just air," she told herself. "It's just outside." She opened the door. The sunlight hit her like a slap. Not painful, just overwhelming. Blinding. Vinny trotted forward, nose to the ground, tail wagging wildly. Sarah stepped outside. Onto the porch. Then 1 step further. The sky was clear. A breeze rustled the trees. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked, and a truck rumbled past. No one stared. Nothing exploded. The world didn't collapse. She was still standing. They walked around the block. It wasn't a big thing, just 15 minutes. But her legs were sore when they returned. Her lungs felt raw from breathing air that wasn't hers. Benny curled up beside the couch afterward. Content. Sarah stood by the window, looking out. Maybe tomorrow, she thought. Maybe we'll go further. Later that afternoon, a small envelope slid through her mail slot. That was unusual. Bills came electronically. She hadn't gotten real mail in ages. She picked it up carefully. No return address. Inside, a small handwritten note. "Sometimes we all need a reason to stay. You don't know me, but I see you." Sarah stared at the paper. Her throat tightened. Who sent it? She glanced outside, but the street was empty. She folded the note and slid it into the book on her nightstand. She didn't know why. Maybe because it felt like something not to throw away. That night, she took the med/final box and placed it in the hallway closet. She didn't throw it out. Not yet. But she didn't want it in her kitchen anymore. Days passed, and Sarah found herself slowly opening more windows, letting sunlight spill into the corners of her apartment. Benny's energy was contagious. He needed walks, fresh air, and quiet companionship, all things she'd pushed away for too long. One afternoon, while sipping lukewarm coffee, the doorbell rang. The sound was sharp against the quiet hum of the apartment. Her heart jumped. She hadn't expected visitors, and the instinct to ignore it tugged hard. But Benny barked excitedly, tail wagging furiously. Swallowing her fear, Sarah went to the door and peeked through the peephole. A man stood there, maybe mid-40s, wearing a simple jacket and a tired smile. He held a small bag of groceries. "Hi, Sarah? I'm Greg, your new neighbor. I noticed your lights were off for a while, and I wanted to check in." She blinked, unsure if she heard him right. "I live next door. Thought maybe you needed anything." Sarah hesitated. I'm okay. Thank you." Greg smiled warmly. "I'm around if you need to talk or anything. I know sometimes life gets rough." He nodded, understanding. "You are not trash, Sarah. No matter what you've been told." The words landed like a soft hand on a bruised shoulder. After he left, Sarah sat down and reread the words in her mind. Not trash. It was the first kindness she had allowed herself to believe in months. Days turned into weeks. Greg visited now and then, dropping off food, sharing stories, quietly reminding Sarah she mattered. One evening, she found herself sharing more than she intended. "I lost my mom last year. Then my job. I just didn't know how to keep going." Greg listened, never interrupting. "You're stronger than you think," he said simply. Benny wagged his tail as if agreeing. Sarah felt a strange lightness she hadn't known in years. She still struggled. Depression clawed at her daily. But for the first time, she understood. She wasn't alone. The days followed a quiet rhythm. Sarah slowly ventured outside, met with Greg's small kindnesses, and found solace in Benny's loyal presence. Yet, the weight of her past pressed heavily. She had appointments scheduled, though she barely remembered the names of the doctors she had seen, therapists, psychiatrists, general practitioners. Her medical records were a tangled mess. Prescription bottles sat unopened or half-used, reminders of her struggles and attempts to heal. One afternoon, Sarah sat in a waiting room, nervously tapping her fingers on the armrest. The sterile smell mixed with faint echoes of conversations she barely caught. Her name was called, but as she stood to follow the nurse, her mind blanked. The doctor she was about to see, was she even the right one? The last visit had been months ago, and the memories were foggy. In the consultation room, the doctor greeted her warmly, but the words felt distant. "Sarah, it's good to see you again. How have you been managing your medications?" Sarah hesitated. "Honestly, I don't remember much. Sometimes I forget to take them. Sometimes I feel like they numb me more than help." The doctor nodded, understanding. It's common to feel that way. Depression can make even self-care a challenge. Sarah confessed her fears about relying on pills and whether they truly helped. Medication isn't a magic fix, the doctor explained gently. It's one part of a larger process: therapy, support, small steps. Sarah left the appointment with a folder of information and a new prescription. But more importantly, she left with a flicker of hope. Outside, Benny waited patiently, tail wagging. For the first time in a long time, Sarah felt like she was taking a real step toward healing, no matter how small or uncertain. One chilly morning, as Sarah was gathering her scattered thoughts in the small community center where she had started volunteering a few days a week, a boy approached her hesitantly. He was no older than 10, with wide, curious eyes and a folded letter clutched tightly in his hands. "Are you Sarah?" he asked softly. She nodded, smiling gently. "I have something for you," he said, handing over the letter. Sarah unfolded the worn paper carefully. It was addressed to her, but the handwriting was unfamiliar. Inside the letter, words from a stranger spoke of struggles Sarah didn't know she had seen. "I've been watching you, even when you didn't see me. You're not alone. I've been there too, feeling lost and broken. Keep going, even when it's hard." The letter was unsigned. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she realized how many unseen people were fighting their own battles, and that small acts of kindness could mean everything. The boy smiled shyly. "My mom said sometimes people need a little hope. That's why I gave it to you." Sarah thanked him, her voice catching. That day, her heart felt lighter, not because her problems disappeared, but because she wasn't invisible anymore. Then he lay at her feet, sensing the shift. Sarah tucked the letter into her jacket pocket and took a deep breath. Tomorrow, she thought, might be a better day. A few days after receiving the mysterious letter, Sarah returned to the community center. While tidying a corner of the small library, she found an envelope wedged between the pages of a book. Curious, she opened it. Inside was a letter, written in shaky handwriting, a heartfelt plea from someone struggling silently, much like she had been. The letter was addressed to anyone who feels alone. For a moment, Sarah hesitated, unsure what to do. Then, something stirred inside her, a flicker of purpose. She grabbed a pen and wrote back. "I see you. You are not alone. Keep holding on. Sometimes, the smallest step forward is the bravest." She left the letter in the book, hoping that whoever found it next would feel a little less invisible. That evening, Sarah sat with Benny, thinking about the power of connection, how a simple letter could reach across silence and pain to offer hope. Her own pain hadn't disappeared, but it felt lighter when shared, even with strangers. For the first time, Sarah began volunteering regularly, attending local support groups and slowly building a circle beyond the walls of her apartment. Her world, once so small and dark, was beginning to grow. A week had passed since the boy handed Sarah the letter. It remained folded in her jacket pocket, a fragile reminder of human kindness. One rainy afternoon, while volunteering at the community center, Sarah found another letter tucked beneath a stack of flyers. This one was different, addressed to someone named Emily, with a story of pain and hope woven into its lines. Curiosity and compassion stirred within Sarah. She wondered about Emily, about the loneliness behind those words. Inspired, Sarah decided to write a reply, a letter of encouragement and understanding. She wrote about her own struggles, about the days when darkness felt endless, and the moments when a simple smile or a kind word made the unbearable bearable. She folded the letter carefully, leaving it anonymously in the same spot, hoping it would reach Emily or anyone else who needed to hear it. That small act gave Sarah new purpose. She began to understand that healing wasn't just about her own journey, it was about connecting, sharing, and lifting others as well. Benny nuzzled her hand, as if approving her decision. That night, Sarah looked at the box marked Med/Final again. Her fingers lingered over the words. For the first time, she wondered if maybe the box wasn't about an end, but a beginning. Benny had become more than just a pet. He was a lifeline, a steady presence through every storm inside Sarah's mind. One afternoon, Sarah noticed Benny sitting by the front door, his eyes fixed outside, ears perked. He didn't usually linger like this. Curious, Sarah stepped outside and saw a small crowd gathered across the street, near a park bench. A woman was speaking softly, tears glistening on her cheeks. Sarah approached slowly, Benny at her side. The woman looked up and smiled faintly. "I'm Claire," she said. "I've seen you around, and I wanted to say thank you. You inspire people more than you know." Sarah blinked, surprised. "You mean me?" Claire nodded. "Your story, your courage. And Benny, he's become a symbol of hope in this neighborhood. People see that someone cares." Sarah felt tears welling up. Benny wagged his tail, nudging her hand. For the first time in a long time, Sarah understood she wasn't invisible. She had found a place, however small, where she belonged. Despite the growing warmth around her, Sarah still wrestled with the shadows inside. The box labeled meds/final remained on the shelf, a silent reminder of her darkest moments. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows, Sarah sat alone with Benny curled at her feet. Her fingers traced the worn edges of the box. Memories flooded back. The overwhelming loneliness, the crushing grief, the nights when hope felt like a stranger. She realized she hadn't been honest with herself. The box wasn't just about medication or an end. It held her fears, her pain, the weight of everything she had carried alone. Tears slipped down her cheeks as she whispered, "I'm scared, but maybe that's okay." With trembling hands, Sarah opened the box. She took out each bottle carefully, looking at the labels, the dates, the faded instructions. For the first time, she made a decision, not to destroy the box, but to face what it represented. She called her doctor the next day, asking for an appointment. It was time to ask for help again, not as a burden, but as a step toward healing. Benny licked her hand, as if to say, "You're not alone anymore." Morning light filtered softly through the curtains. For the first time in what felt like forever, Sarah reached over and turned off the alarm clock without hesitation or dread. The sound no longer felt like a jarring reminder of the day's battles, but a gentle nudge to keep moving forward. She got out of bed, stretching slowly, feeling the ache in her muscles, a reminder she was alive. Benny greeted her with a happy bark, tail wagging enthusiastically. Today, she told herself, she would try to make the most of small moments. Sarah prepared breakfast, her movements deliberate and calm. She even dressed in clothes she hadn't worn in months, feeling the fabric against her skin as a small victory. She made a list of simple goals: take a walk, call her doctor, write in her journal. Each task was small but meaningful. Later, walking with Benny in the crisp air, Sarah smiled at a passerby who smiled back. The world was still difficult, still uncertain. But today, she was ready to face it. The day Sarah had long avoided arrived. She sat in the community center's small meeting room, surrounded by a circle of people who had come to listen, to share, and to heal. Her hands trembled as she clutched the letter from the boy and the box marked med/final. Taking a deep breath, she began to speak. She told her story, the pain, the isolation, the nights filled with tears and silence. She spoke of losing her mother, the crushing weight of unemployment, the battle with depression. But she also spoke of hope, of small acts of kindness, and of the power of connection. As her voice grew steadier, others nodded, some wiping away tears. Sarah realized she was no longer invisible. Her pain was valid. Her life mattered. After the meeting, Sarah stepped outside into the fading light. Benny wagged his tail, waiting. She looked up at the sky, feeling the weight lift, just a little. And in that moment, Sarah spoke not just to the room, but to herself. "I am here. I am not alone. And I will keep fighting."